Hello, lads. Tonight I want to talk about, and when I say tonight, it's because I'm recording this at night. I don't know when I'm going to upload it. I'll probably upload it the next day, or perhaps even the day after that, because this is not a time sensitive video. This is a movie review analysis video, which I like to do from time to time, as I am an inveterate cinephile. And I wanted to talk a little bit about why, to me, out of all of the Alfred Hitchcock movies that I have seen, The Birds is my favorite. Now, I am not a Hitchcock fanatic, although I recognize his genius, of course. I'm not someone who just voraciously watches his movies, but at the same time, I know that he was fantastic, and so I have watched them from time to time, and it just so happens the last two nights I've watched two of his movies. One which I've never seen before, called Marnie, which which is good, but not great, I wouldn't say. And tonight I watched The Birds, and this was maybe I think this is maybe the third time I've seen it in my life, although it's been several years since I've seen it before. And to me, this stands out as his best movie. I don't know if it's acknowledged as such. It seems like the people who talk about the greatest Hitchcock movie usually say that it's Vertigo or Rear Window. I think those are the two that get mentioned the most. Maybe Psycho. Psycho's kind of the one that made the biggest splash, and maybe the one that has had the most pop culture. Has made the most eddies in the pop culture continuum, as it were. It's the one that gets referenced the most. But I think The Birds is just fantastic. How do I begin to talk about it? Well, it's a strange film, just story structure wise. It's just it starts out as some kind of weird, like flirtation or romance story between the two main characters. Tippi Hedren is the gorgeous blonde du jour in this movie. She was also in a couple of other Hitchcock movies from that same period. This is the one where she's really looking the dishiest. I think she is hot as hell. And and the guy that she has this kind of flirtation with, this cat and mouse flirtation. I don't know the name of the actor, but the movie starts out just with this guy visiting her while she's in a bird, like a not a bird sanctuary, but a bird store. I guess it's not a pet store, but a pet store that only sells birds. Are those? Do they still have those? I tend to think that you just, if you want to buy a pet bird, you'd go to a pet store where they have a bunch of other animals. But this is a store in San Francisco back when it was glamorous, before it became shitty, just like with Vertigo. Uh, and This is some store where she's buying a mynah bird for some reason. I can't remember why, or I don't know if it's ever explained why. But this guy comes in, this strapping, handsome guy, and asks her for some help in finding lovebirds, which I didn't even know lovebirds were. Are that's a real type of bird. I just thought lovebirds was an expression that you had for people who were lovey-dovey, but there are actual lovebirds. So I'm 52 years old, and this is the first time I've realized that. But she, because she likes the guy, because she thinks he's cute and all, she sort of pretends to. He comes up to her and asks her if she can help him, and she pretends that she's an employee at the store, and it's evident that she doesn't know any of the birds, doesn't know what any of them are called. She misidentifies them, and one after another, and the guy corrects her, and then finally he calls her by name, and says, you like to play practical jokes, and he makes a reference to something that she did in the courthouse. I can't remember what exactly, what it ended up with, a window being smashed. And he said, I'm not fond of practical jokes, but I just thought I'd give you a taste of your own medicine. And then he leaves, and she's turned on, of course, because, he just negged her, and he's this hot guy, in a nice suit. So she runs down and finds out his license plate. And then she calls her dad, who works for the newspaper in town, and so it turns out she's the society girl who kind of has a reputation of being a party girl, although she's very elegant. Maybe they didn't. Maybe you could be a party girl at that time and still sort of have yourself put together, not just look like a tramp, not just look like a meth head, like, like you do today, if you're a party girl. So she, or maybe it's just it always is just in the movies. I don't know. But she finds out where he lives. She tracks him down. She goes to his apartment, and then his neighbor and she's going to return the favor, like carry on the practical joke, and because he requested lovebirds that he was going to get, that he wanted for his young sister. But but then he walked away saying it was all a joke anyway, but she wants to keep into contact with him and sort of keep this flirtation and practical joke thing going. So he goes to her apartment, and she's gonna leave the lovebirds at his door, and then his neighbor just happens to be there and tells her that oh no, he's at this place called Bodega Beach, which is several miles outside of town. And so that's where he sometimes goes for the weekend. That's where his extended family lives. So she drives all the way out there. She could just wait for him to get back, but she decides to drive all the way out to this remote spot, and she goes through all this elaborate subterfuge. She rents a boat, so that she can approach his house across the bay in the most surreptitious manner. She brings the cage of the lovebirds over, and then sneaks in, leaves it in his house, so that he can find it. And so it's such a peculiar story up to that point. Just like this lady's just going way out of her way for some random guy, that she likes, that she thinks is hot, and that she wants to. She just wants to keep their banter going that they had in the bird store in the first place. And then when she's on her way back on the boat, a gull attacks her for no apparent reason, and she's bleeding from the face. And so the guy helps her out, and bandages her up, and she says that she's out there visiting a friend. She makes up all this stuff, but he can see right through it. So in the midst of this whole story of this weird, peculiar, sort of romance story, sort of in a way screwball comedy that's playing itself out. Suddenly, in the midst of all of this, we have this sudden spate of bird attacks. And if you know anything about the birds, you've probably heard. I said that a little bit earlier that Psycho is probably the Hitchcock's most resonant, pop culturally resonant movie, but The Birds is pretty resonant as well. And I think even people who don't know anything about the movie know the stuff about birds attacking people, that happens in it. And the way that these bird attacks happen, the you go back and look at older movies when special effects weren't as special, including a lot of Hitchcock movies. There's a lot of green screen stuff where somebody's driving and they're obviously not on the road. They've obviously got a screen behind them, and it can threaten to take you out of the moment. This movie, though, I found that the bird attack scenes are really horrifying, and very visceral. You know, and that even though I'm sure if they made the movie today, which it's a miracle they never remade it, as far as I know, and I'm so glad that they haven't so far. But maybe there's some reason. I don't think maybe they haven't remade. No, no, they remade Psycho. So I don't know if there's necessarily anything in Hitchcock's, you know, stipulations, regarding his art that this cannot be remade or something like that. Anyway, the bird attacks happen. There's several of them that happen at different times. There's one time where they come in through through the fireplace, which is unexpected. I mean, I'd seen it before, but I had forgotten. And there's like an unexpected horrific aspect to that. Like you're not expecting that. Them to come in through the fireplace. They can peck their way through the window, you know, and it's different species of birds. And there's this crazy bird lady who shows up in this like diner scene. There's this old lady who just is just a know-it-all and knows everything about birds and stuff. And she says, "No, birds of different species uh, uh, would never flock together and join in some coordinated effort. That's just absurd." And you know she knows she's saying all this stuff that just there's no way this can possibly be happening. But it keeps happening over and over and over again in different scenarios and different parts of this charming little town, little seaside town, which just winds up this wreck of a place. And characters, are uh, uh, are killed by these birds. And it's like the whole idea of getting pecked to death by a bird. In a way, it's funny, but but in a way, it's just horrifying just to think of it actually happening. And it could happen. It could actually happen. I've I've been running before, and I've been attacked by a bird a couple of times. I think it's like some mama bird defending her nest, and like I've had them swoop down at me, and I just feel them come at my head. Like just fly right over my head, go phew, and that's pretty unnerving. But just to have them all over you and to have them pecking at you and stuff, you know, again, there's an absurdity to it, and in a way, it's kind of funny to think about, but it's definitely also horrifying. And to have again these different birds, different species of birds like crows, uh, and gulls, seagulls, and other bird species, I think, are also in the mix. just just acting as one, and of course, I think there's a kind of famous scene, right, where Tippy is out just outside smoking a cigarette. Why would you want to be outside when birds are randomly attacking? I just think go inside. Um, but she's sitting there, and behind her, a crow lands on the playground, and she doesn't notice it. We see it, and then a couple minutes later, there's a few more crows there, and then there's a few more, and then till eventually the whole playground is just covered in them. They're all over, the jungle gym, and it's like whoa. it's um. So say also, there's an interesting. There's a scene involving another lady another young woman who once had a thing going with this guy, but who it was they called it quits because this guy's mom is sort of difficult to deal with, and she had just lost her husband at the time, so she was very possessive of her son, and so they were. Um, so this woman who has a house just close by on in Bodega Bay, uh, we meet her, and she's the school teacher in the town, and she's a brunette. So so in Hitchcock's eyes, she's expendable. Although sometimes the blondes died too, but Hitchcock liked his blondes. Um, but the scenes, I have to say, the scenes between Tepi Hedron and this brunette lady are peculiarly sexually charged. Um, and I don't know if it's just me. I mean, but there's nothing overt, of course. But we do uh, get a sense that this main character, this girl, um, the Tippi Hedron character, is sort of you know kind of a little bit headstrong, a little bit willful, um, and there are she's been written about in the gossip pages as uh, she supposedly jumped into a fountain in Rome when when she was there, and they said they said she jumped in naked, but and so Mitch, that's the name of the guy, asks her about that, confronts her about that, and she denies it and says that she was clothed the whole time, but she admits that she was hanging around with a bad element. So she's this girl's in like pushing 30. She's uh, she's still single, and again very headstrong, very much you know uh, not a wilting flower, not terribly submissive. Just does what she wants to do when she wants to do it. Uh, and for Hitchcock, who was conservative uh, and Catholic, that sort of lifestyle, it's often said that he punished his heroines for their waywardness. The most famous or infamous example of this being Janet Leigh getting stabbed to death in the shower halfway or a third of the way through Psycho, where she seems like she's going to be the protagonist of the heroine, and then she suddenly is murdered, and this is after she's having this torrid love affair, I think, with a married man, and then steals this money, and goes on the lam. So she's kind of a bad girl there too. and this character kind of also has that quality about her. And this, like I said, the scenes between her and the brunette are just where they're talking, and they're both talking about Mitch, and how this other girl's still sweet on Mitch, and everything. But she's there. She's like wearing jeans, and she's looking very like she's just gotten in from gardening, and she's just again. There's a little bit of this Les vibe there, which is interesting for the period. But I'm mentioning all of this because eventually there's a scene in which Tippy's character herself just gets mauled by birds, just gets hacked away at. Uh, where they think they've kept the birds, they've barricaded the house and kept the birds out. Although they start to come in through this window, like they've boarded it up, but then they're making progress, pecking at this area here, this area there, and it's a terrifying scene. It's really bizarrely terrifying scene. It's a bizarre movie, and not without a certain kind of humor to it. Um, but just because you don't expect horror to come in that way, in that to come from that, uh, you know, in that particular manner, and there's a surreality to it. But anyhow, I think that we are meant to see what happens to her as being, in a way, a punishment for her being a bad girl, or being a little headstrong, and doing and willful and doing her own thing. Um, it's that reactionary Hitchcockian uh, take on these types of women, and the brunette also, who she seems to have a weird sort of flirtation with in one scene. She also does not prosper. She doesn't end in a very pleasant way. So, so I think what I like most about this movie, or one of the things that I really like about it, is how it's the explanation is, there's never any explanation given for why these birds attack, or why this attack has happened. And the way that it ends is just very much it's on a cliffhanger. The birds are everywhere. They're everywhere, and they're real. Like they walk out among them, and they're not in the attack mode at this point, although they're still nasty. They're like, if you step near them, they bite they'll still snap at you. But they manage to get through them because they need to get our heroine to a hospital, because she's really been hurt bad by them. Although she's looks like she's probably going to be okay, just maybe traumatized for life. But so they drive away, and birds are on the telephone poles, birds are in the trees, birds are, just everywhere, permeating everything. And in an earlier scene, we learn that birds outnumber man, by billions. So if there was, if this became a trend in other places, it would spell a real trouble for the human race. But why is it happening? It's never explained. And there's something really eerie about that, and really powerful about just leaving us on that cliffhanger. And I don't know at the time if people were clamoring for there to be a sequel, because it seems like there really could have been a sequel where we find out why this is happening. We find out why the lovebirds that Tippy's character ended up getting for Mitch's sister, why those birds aren't joining in the hostility, where they're still being their sweet little selves. And lots of other things like that. Like it could have. There were so many places it could have gone, but it just ends, and that's it. And you know, the rest of it, you just have to work it out for yourself. You just have to wonder, did this trend that was just on the bay, in this little town and a couple of places nearby, did it spread like elsewhere to a lot of places? Did it become a worldwide phenomenon, or was it just limited to this area? You know, we never know. We never find out. But but we're left with this ominous feeling like it could become something that is, you know, that is everywhere. And if it becomes a ubiquitous thing, then it's going to be pretty hard to to stop. It's going to be pretty hard to put a stop to, because there's so many damn birds. So anyway, that's why Alfred Hitchcock's The Bird is my favorite Hitchcock movie. Let me know what you think below. Thank you very much for watching.